Okay, guys, my time is already clicking. As I was introduced, I'm Gauravjeet Singh. I'm General Manager Media for HUL.
And I am Premjeet Singh. I head Mindshare Fulcrum, and we manage the media investments for HUL.
So we'll quickly jump into the rest of the story. What we're going to talk about is what we call, and very proud to present something that the team has worked on. We just represent the work that the team has done. It's called Adaptive Data Lighthouse. And I'll walk you over after a very snazzy, high-tech presentation on what's happening on the digital ecosystem, which I hugely second. It's evolving pretty rapidly. What this will be a bit of a gear change on what's truly deep India reality of how you reach consumers in rural India with contextual advertising. Now, in the year 1796 is when vaccinations were discovered. Around 1890 is when, for the first time, any kind of antibacterial solutions were found. It's around that time in 1894 that William Hackett Levers invented Lifebuoy and launched it as a carbolic soap. And the 125 years since, it is one of the largest brands globally. In India, it is the largest soap brand, with 7 or 10 Indians using a Lifebuoy at least once a year. So that's the kind of penetration that the Lifebuoy has in India. But what it also means is that it's in those geographies where consumers need this brand the most, and it's almost it's deep hinterland, UP, Bihar, that this brand makes a massive difference to lives, because what it does is it prevents any kind of germ-led diseases, because just the act of washing hands using Lifebuoy is known to cause decline in any incidence of disease. But the challenge also remains that as a hand washing habit, rural India is notoriously bad. Even if there's a soap at home, it's very rare that people would wash hands before a meal, which itself is a big cause of incidence of disease. And hence, the key problem is that how do you really get consumers to use a soap, even any soap for that matter? And because Lifebuoy is the largest single soap that gets used in the country, the onus lies on Lifebuoy to really drive this to prevent any incidences of disease out of germs, and ensure that people just get the regime of washing hands in place. The other piece is also true that the best time to really give this message to consumer, and a lot of digital marketers in the room and intent marketers and contextual marketing guys in the room, you would be you would agree that it's most appropriate to intervene at a time when you are most contextually relevant. And to that effect is an activation platform that Lifebuoy uses globally. And India is a big country where we deploy this, which is called the infection alert system. What it really does is that we use really large data sets to really attribute any kind of breakout of disease that might happen, giving us an indication that this is the right time for a consumer to be made aware of a particular event. And this is done extremely simply on traditional media, through newspapers, through radios, through other pieces, to let consumers know that there is a possible incidence of disease, and that incidence of disease, you can prevent it from happening to your child if you only make sure that you wash your hands before a meal. A very simple exercise. But the fact is that there's another added problem to this message to be brought to consumers, and that problem is that media penetration in these geographies is lesser than the brand penetration itself. So it's a big task to get to consumers, and how do you do so? Parallelly, the fact also remains that the easiest way to get to these consumers is through a device, which is a feature phone. That's much more penetrated than any other media in these geographies. And the second big factor is that because these audiences are not literate in most of the cases, audio as a key signal is a very big driver of taking this message. Hence, what we really needed was for a brand this size, where 7 or 10 Indians use a brand of this size, it is critical that you have an option that's scalable as a solution. And second, it had to be hypertextual. Without those two, contextual. If those things are not in place, it's a very less impactful brand. It's a good thing to do, but it doesn't make a difference to the brand's life. So I'll hand over to Premjeet on what they did as our partners to really bring this to life. The green one.
Yeah, so to deliver to this objective, it was a task of how do we identify the people or the geographies where we need to address, and how do we target and deploy there. Yes, that was the task which was at hand. So we were to look at the districts where we have to target, and how do we make it contextual so that we are right at the precise time when the message matters most to them. So what if we had disease incidence data, right? Not only have disease incidence data of the past, but what if we could use that data to predict in the future what is going to be the likely incidence of disease or the intensity of disease for certain geographies. And according to that, if we could develop a signaling system to alert the people or to inform them to develop habit of hand washing or do that. So with that as the objective, we developed what we call the adaptive data lighthouse, which delivered the infection alert system, right? So what this does it, so for this we dug into two large databases, two of the biggest databases in the health sector, the integrated disease surveillance program and the health management information system, right? These systems obtain data on a weekly basis on disease incidence from about 34,000 hospitals in UP and Bihar. And this weekly collated data, while present in different formats, was taken and processed, digitized, and that becomes the input for the dashboard, which helps us pick up what to do or to decide where to deploy, right? So at a sub-district level, almost at a village level, we have data on incidence of diseases on a weekly basis updated, and this data is then processed, projected further, and from that critical about 10% of the districts. So of the 822 districts, about 60 odd districts were identified, which at various points of time during Jan to March when the program ran were the most critical to be addressed. And using voice, as Gauravjit said, voice through mobile feature phones, we deployed the messaging contextual to the specific disease in the district. Yeah, let's go through a video to say how this whole program happened. Will you play the video, please?
India's infant mortality rate is 13% higher than the global average. Two of the most populous states, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, has an infant mortality rate as high as 43 and 38 per 1,000 live births respectively against the global average of 30. Half of these deaths are caused by preventable diseases like diarrhea and pneumonia. Given this cause, Lifebuoy found an opportunity to activate its key communication platform, the Infection Alert System, to educate parents on sickness prevention, health and hygiene. Lifebuoy, India's #1 soap brand with 17% market share, was witnessing slower increase in brand equity compared to its competition. Lifebuoy's another big challenge is to reach media dark geographies of rural India, which contributes to 70% of sales. Lack of hand washing before meals results in children falling ill. Hand washing with a soap is the single most cost-effective intervention to prevent child deaths. Lifebuoy realized that the mobile phone was the market's only present companion with 6 times higher reach compared to other traditional media and can help us to strategically intervene at the moment of truth. However, the target audience, being from rural areas with lower income group, posed a challenge because they were users of basic feature phones which have no internet connectivity. Lifebuoy felt that the audio communication would deliver greater impact. Our solution was to create an adaptive data lighthouse, which would be a data-led infection alert system that would help Lifebuoy proactively educate consumers when they are most vulnerable to fatal diseases. ADL encompassed 4 key components: the disease database management, followed by predictive analytics to identify significant disease incidence thresholds, micro-targeting villages or rural districts basis severity of incidence, and then communicating contextual preventive disease messages via mobile outbound dialing. The Adaptive Data Lighthouse tapped into 2 health databases of Government of India, the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program and the Health Management Information Systems. We transferred raw data to Insights Journey and created a database of 21 communicable diseases that are preventable by simply washing hands before meals. Fueled with data from 34,000 hospitals across 822 sub-districts, the proprietary algorithm decoded big data into a simplified version, which helped to understand the intensity, magnitude, and trends of each of these 21 communicable diseases at a weekly level for each of the 822 districts. Using historical data on these diseases to derive a predictive incidence rate using a time series model, the algorithm assigned priority, which helped prioritize the most vulnerable rural sub-districts basis incidences and seasonality of activation.
आपके इलाके में आजकल तेजी से फैल रही दस्त की बीमारी से सुरक्षा के लिए डॉक्टर लाइफ बॉय के आसान उपाय। सिर्फ उबला हुआ या फिल्टर का पानी ही पिएं। खाने से पहले हाथों को लाइफ बॉय स्ट्रॉन्ग साबुन से धोएं।
On average, 8 million calls were dialed every week. The key brand attribute, protect effectively from germs, scores grew by 500 basis points. Additionally, the brand trust attribute, trust more than other brands, grew by 200 basis points. This campaign was one of its kind, geo-targeted, data-led adaptive marketing in the media dark markets of rural India using mobile technology. Given the campaign success in 2 states, we extended the adaptive data lighthouse model in 6 additional states to keep the momentum going. One step towards healthy India. Lifebuoy.
Thank you, Premji. Quickly, 64 million odd impressions delivered in that short period of time, and it continues to be something that we scale up across other states. Using over 100 odd million database of telephone numbers with our telecom partners, it's been one of our successful cases where digital can impact lives in such a massive way, and is just the right value exchange between a consumer and a brand. So we continue to support it and make it bigger with every passing year. The results have been spectacular, with the one that I'm especially proud of, rural penetration of the brand going up by 180 BPS, which is a real strong shift, which means that many more households would use a Lifebuoy soap this year, which is a stupendous attributable success to this particular action that we took. We're super proud of the work done by the team. Thank you so much for being patient on this.
Thank you.